World leaders have called for solidarity to overcome the COVID-19 pandemic, concrete measures to tackle the climate crisis and commitments to ensure global peace as part of the high-level general debate for the 76th session of the United Nations General Assembly. Mexican President Andrés Manuel López Obrador urged the United States to act quickly to tackle the causes of the migratory crisis affecting the two neighbouring countries. Israeli soldiers raided the Shafat refugee camp, assaulting the Palestinian population. From the headquarters of teleSUR English in Havana, Cuba, this is From the South, and I'm Katrina Goss. The high-level general debate of the 76th session of the United Nations General Assembly continues this Wednesday. Earlier on Wednesday, heads of state and government and representatives of different sectors met to commemorate the 20th anniversary of the 2001 Durban Declaration and Plan of Action, which stemmed from the World Conference Against Racism, Racial Discrimination, Xenophobia and Related Intolerance. Under the theme Building Resilience Through Hope to Recover from COVID-19, Rebuild Sustainably, Respond to the Needs of the Planet, Respect the Rights of People and Revitalise the United Nations, the 76th General Debate addresses pressing issues affecting the international community, such as the COVID-19 pandemic, vaccination rollout and preparedness ahead of future health crises. Climate change and action to tackle it are also a key feature of the discussions. And addressing the United Nations General Assembly during the second day of the high-level general debate, the President of Madagascar, André Rajoelina Rajoelina, highlighted the importance of this year's meeting.
For this 76th session of the General Assembly, all nations have come together here in the United Nations to together think about appropriate strategies for addressing the effects of COVID-19. Our goal is to find the ways and means to relaunch the economy after the coronavirus. And the well-being of our populations must be the bedrock of all of our reflections.
Madagascar's head of state also referred to the devastating consequences that COVID-19 has caused around the world.
Many have fallen. 4.5 million people have lost their lives. This is a painful reality and a shocking figure. The impact on the jobs market is terrible. Figures from the International Labour Organization speak for themselves. 255 million people have lost their jobs due to the pandemic. The worst affected countries are those whose economies are chiefly based in the informal sector. This has accentuated poverty and worsened living conditions for populations.
Kenyan President Uhuru Kenyatta urged other countries to make vaccines available to those nations in need in his pre-recorded speech to the United Nations General Assembly this Wednesday.
At the heart of the global effort to building back better, we must make concerted, structural changes that should enable a quantum increase in investment and technology transfers. And this, not as charity, but instead driven by enlightened self-interest and solidarity. A fast-developing Africa will offer the entire world the benefit of its demographic dividend of youth and vast investment opportunities. Africa can become an engine of sustainable global growth, but also as an exporter of peace, stability, and transformative prosperity.
In his speech to the UN General Assembly, the President of Ghana, Nana Akufo-Addo, referred to the devastating consequences of COVID-19 on the African continent, especially in terms of the job market.
More than 30 million Africans fell into extreme poverty in 2020, and nearly 40 million could do so in 2021. The social impact has been devastating. Over 103 million African jobs have been lost. Women, who account for 40% of total employment, have been most hard hit. Mr. President, We're listening to the scientists. It is evident that vaccination is the way to protect populations and revitalize societies.
Speaking at the United Nations General Assembly as part of the session to mark the 20th anniversary of the Durban Declaration and Programme of Action, President of South Africa, Cyril Ramaphosa, stressed that the legacy of slavery persists today.
Slavery was one of the darkest periods in the history of humankind and a crime of unparalleled barbarity. Its legacy persists in the Americas, in the Caribbean, in Europe, the Middle East, and in Africa itself. Millions of descendants of Africans who were sold into slavery remain trapped in lives of underdevelopment, disadvantage, discrimination, and poverty.
Also addressing the 20th anniversary of the Durban Declaration and Programme of Action, President of the Democratic Republic of the Congo, Felix Tshisekedi, stated that although progress has been made, there's still alarming racial discrimination around the world.
We acknowledge that some progress has been made since the adoption of the Durban Declaration and Programme of Action 20 years ago. However, we have many more obstacles to overcome because Africans in general and Africans from the diaspora in particular continue to face problems of inequalities. We have noted the alarming uptick in racial discrimination around the world. The COVID-19 pandemic has further exacerbated this.
In the framework of the 76th General Assembly of the United Nations, the President of Venezuela, Nicolas Maduro, called for an end to colonialism and the construction of a multipolar and pluricentric world.
That is why, in this General Assembly, overshadowed by the pandemic, from the very heart of our beloved fatherland, Venezuela is calling for a new world free from colonialism, a new world without imperialism, a new world without any dominant hegemon, a new world of cooperation, belonging to a human community with a shared destiny. It is a multipolar, pluricentric world for which we yearn, and for which we are issuing a rallying cry with all people of the world, with the peoples of the South.
The Venezuelan president also denounced the campaign waged against his country by world powers, highlighting the lack of respect for international law.
Venezuela has frequently spoken out against the ferocious onslaught, the merciless campaign waged against our country by the elites that have governed the United States, with the complicity of the elites at the helm of organizations in Europe and elsewhere. They have sought to manipulate international organizations and international law in an attempt to justify their merciless campaign and criminal aggressions against the noble, peaceful and democratic people of Venezuela. We have spoken out about this situation on many prior occasions and in many different organizations, and we are doing so again here today before the United Nations General Assembly in New York.
And we'll be right back after this very short break, so don't go away. Welcome back to From the South. Mexican President Andrés Manuel López Obrador urged the United States to act quickly to tackle the causes of the migratory crisis affecting the two neighbouring countries. The Mexican president referred to the escalating humanitarian crisis as thousands of Haitian and other asylum seekers mass on Mexico's northern border seeking access into the United States. He stated that Mexico and Central American countries were still waiting for several $billion pledged by Washington for economic development to reduce the need for people to flee poverty. The Mexican leader has repeatedly proposed expanding one of his domestic welfare programs into Central America with the aim of generating 1.2 million jobs in the region.
I am confident that the government of US President Biden will accept the proposal that we are making to confront the migratory phenomenon with development, with well-being, with employment. Enough talk. It is time to act.
And as part of the same crisis, a government official in Bogota, Colombia, said some 19,000 asylum seekers, mainly Haitians, are amassed on the north coast of the country, from where they hope to cross to Panama and find a route to the United States. A steady influx of asylum seekers from Colombia northward via Panama dried up in 2020 due to coronavirus travel restrictions and the resulting border closures. However, there have been several thousand new arrivals at Nacucli in northwestern Antioquia department in recent weeks. From there, people cross the Gulf of Urabá by boat to the Colombian village of Acandi, which borders Panama. The journey onwards is on foot, a dangerous trek across mountain and jungle, facing snakes, steep ravines, tropical downpours and criminals, often linked to drug trafficking.
The Ombudsman's office has been able to confirm that around 19,000 migrants are being held up in this municipality on their way to Acandi in Choco for transit to the border with Panama. We continue to strictly monitor this situation and accompany the migrant population in guaranteeing their rights. Given that this is a transitional phenomenon, in 4 weeks we will meet with the Ombudsman of Iberoamerica to seek cooperation mechanisms to improve the situation of migrants in transit.
Staying in Colombia, the Citizen Power movement announced it was joining the historic Pact, an electoral alliance formed by several progressive parties and social movements seeking to put up a united front in elections next year. We have more details with our correspondent, Hanan Tobar.
The potential number of people eligible to vote in Colombia is approximately 38 million. They will have the option of choosing on March 13, 2022, the lawmakers who will represent them in Congress, as well as the President of the nation in the first round of the balloting process, set for May 29th. With their sights set on the polls, movements and parties are planning their approaches and consolidating their coalitions. This is how Citizen Power, the movement led by former Senator Piedad Córdoba, decided to join this historic pact electoral alliance that brings together several progressive and leftist political organizations in Colombia. In the case of Piedad Córdoba, well, she's a significant person not only in the country's left, but also in the struggle of black communities in Colombia and of the women's struggle. Bold women, unafraid to step up to the first line on the political stage, and that is a symbolic, which is kind of natural idea of the pact. The pact is formed by a series of social representatives, some of which haven't any experience in the electoral race. However, this is a key moment where they are all aiming for a fundamental change in the way the country is run. The political movement is composed by organizations of diverse backgrounds, like the Communist Party, Patriotic Union, Colombia Humana, and the Alternative Indigenous Movement, along with other associations that have found common ground in the demands being voiced in the streets, the necessity of respecting and seeing to the application of the peace treaties, and the reduction of the high levels of violence that are tearing Colombian society apart. The pact has a strong center of union that is unbreakable, and by which any person or organization that adheres to it is bound. That is the defense of peace, of Havana treaties, and in those there are many solutions for the human rights crisis the country is experiencing, not only in terms of safety, also in terms of social transformations that safety promotes and makes it possible in the conflicted territories. Violence in the Colombian territories is still taking many lives. Over the weekend, massacre number 71 was announced, having taken place in the municipality of Tulua, where 3 people were murdered, among them a minor. Another violent event in the same area of the Cauca Valley also made headlines, the assassination of the journalist Marco Efraín Montalvo. During this year, 9 massacres were carried out in the department, with a total of 41 deaths. In the year 2021, there have been 75 indigenous people murdered, victims from different ethnicities, although mostly of the Nasa people. Since the peace treaty was signed, the count is of 289 homicides, of 333 at the national level, and we see that these are systematic violations of the human rights of the indigenous peoples of Colombia. Likewise, the murder of indigenous leader José Lisandro Cayapu in the municipality of Caldono, department of Cauca, was added to the long list of killings of advocates for social change. In Cauca, the indigenous population is particularly affected by the dynamics of the internal conflict. This deplorable state of affairs worsens even more with the assassination of the signatory to the peace agreement, Manuel Mera Viveros, in Quibdó, Chocó department. The killing of Mera Viveros is the 37th in 2021. The same fate was shared by Maria Nancy Ramirez, murdered in the Santa Rosa de Osos municipality, Antioquia department.
And we have more stories coming up after this final short break. Stay with us. Welcome back to From the South. On Wednesday morning, Israeli soldiers raided the Shufat refugee camp, assaulting the Palestinian population. In a new act of lawlessness, undercover Israeli agents infiltrated the camp, located in the northeast of occupied Jerusalem, before abducting 4 youths, according to witnesses. The agents made the arrests after jumping out from the back of a civilian van and then chased other residents of the camp, but were unable to capture them. Almost all medicine is imported from neighbouring countries such as Pakistan, India, Bangladesh, Iran and Turkey. However, the border crossings between Afghanistan and its neighbours were disrupted in the lead up to the Taliban takeover, and normal operations are yet to resume. Officials said the number of visitors at state hospitals has increased since the change of government. Wahid Majrou, acting Minister of Public Health, said many of the problems in the sector are left over from the previous government.
Yes, since the takeover, banks are closed for international transactions. As the banks are closed, we can't transfer payments to suppliers. If we don't transfer money to the suppliers legally, they will not be able to deliver us the medicine and prices will definitely rise. When demand is high and supply is low, the prices naturally go up. We are facing a shortage in supply of essential medicines.
And it led us having few or no supply in most of our health facilities, including essential medicine, fuel, oxygen, staff salary. We've been trying to work with different stakeholders to see if we can fulfill the urgent needs, but we haven't been able to do it successfully.
Meanwhile, tensions continue. Taliban vehicles were attacked in eastern Afghanistan on Wednesday, killing at least 2 fighters and 3 civilians, in the latest violence since the group's takeover of the country mid-August. In one attack, gunmen opened fire on a Taliban vehicle at a local gas station in the provincial capital of Jalalabad, killing 2 fighters and a gas station attendant. Witnesses said a child was also among the victims. 2 Taliban were wounded in a separate attack, a bombing of another vehicle in Jalalabad that also wounded a person nearby. No one claimed immediate responsibility for Wednesday's attacks, although the Islamic State group, which is headquartered in eastern Afghanistan, took responsibility for similar attacks in Jalalabad last week that killed 8 people. The Taliban are under pressure to contain long-time rivals, the ISIS militants, in part to make good on a promise to the international community that they will prevent the staging of terror attacks from Afghan soil. During a high-level meeting in Austria, Syria denounced that Israel's nuclear arsenal is a threat to regional and international peace and security. During his statement at the 65th session of the General Conference of the International Atomic Energy Agency, Syrian Ambassador Hassan Kadur denounced the aggressive behaviour of Israel in the region. According to his remarks, in addition to retaining nuclear power outside the framework of comprehensive safeguard agreements, Israel represents a grave danger to the non-proliferation of nuclear arms. The Syrian ambassador also stated that ongoing Israeli attacks on Syria call for the immediate sending of inspection missions from the agency to Israel. On Wednesday, China's Foreign Ministry announced the US and UK deal to share highly sensitive nuclear submarine technology with Australia, a key part of the three countries' newly established security partnership, AUKUS, which is a violation of the Treaty on the Non-Proliferation of Nuclear Weapons.
The nuclear submarine cooperation among the US, the UK and Australia seriously undermines regional peace and stability, intensifies the arms race, undermines international nuclear non-proliferation efforts, and runs counter to the wishes of the countries in the region. The US, the UK and Australia should abandon the mentality of Cold War and zero-sum games, and the narrow geopolitical concept, follow the trend of peace and development, and stop building small groups and circles.
And we've come to the end of this news brief. Remember, you can find these and many other stories on our website at telesurenglish.net. You can also follow us on social media for all the latest news. We're on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram and Telegram. For TeleSUR English, I'm Katrina Goss. Thank you for watching.